Well, if you're thinking about making a move to the province of Alberta in Canada, you've come to the right place. In this video, we're going to go through my top pros and cons about living here in Alberta. And if you're moving here from somewhere else, please comment below where you're moving from, whether it's from another province here in Canada or from another country altogether. I'd love to hear where everyone is moving to our province from. And while you're down there commenting, please give this video a thumbs up for me. It really does help out the channel and it helps me get these videos in front of more viewers. So I'd really appreciate it. And if you've seen my videos before, thank you for coming back and watching one more. And if you're new, thanks for watching, and please subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And we're going to start first with the top 4 pros about living here in our province of Alberta and move on to the 4 cons from there. And first up, our number 1 pro, and this one might be a big reason why you're considering a move here, and that is our housing affordability. People here love living in Alberta for the quality of life and the cost-saving benefits, and housing is no exception. A lot of Canadians are moving out of other major cities such as Vancouver and Toronto, as cost of living can be extremely expensive in those areas, and for this reason, affordability is the driving factor behind most people's decision right now to move here to Alberta. So to give you an idea, currently Canada has an average benchmark price of $716,000, and Alberta actually falls about $250,000 lower than that at $462,000 for an average benchmark price. And to give you an idea of how much cheaper it is to live here versus other provinces, we can compare it to British Columbia with their benchmark price of $992,000 or to the $911,000 we see in Ontario. Now, these 2 provinces specifically are where a large number of our out-of-province buyers are coming from, and a big reason why is due to the affordability of our homes and our overall life here in Alberta. Now, if we compare to other provinces, other places aren't as high as BC and Ontario are. For example, the Northwest Territories, Yukon, and Quebec are slightly higher, being right around the $500,000 mark, while Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and the rest of the maritime provinces are a little bit cheaper for housing than Alberta. And because of the lower cost to buy a home, a lot more young people and families are able to get into the real estate market here and actually own property sooner than they would in other provinces, while also being able to enjoy the opportunities that come along with being here in Alberta. And we even have quite a few people opting to continue living and renting a home in their home provinces, but buying investment properties here just so they're able to get into the housing market somewhere, even if they're not able to move here at the moment. Now, the cost of renting is also approximately 40% less expensive than British Columbia and Ontario here. So in terms of housing, all around, you're going to be able to get more for your money here. Now, this could mean bigger backyard space, more garage space, more square footage, or just overall a nicer home in general. And your budget might even include a new build where you thought maybe where you're at you might not ever get to live in a new construction home. And now moving on to our pro number 2 for living here in Alberta, and that's our proximity to the Rocky Mountains. Another reason people are so happy here is you're able to have great work-life balance with plenty of time to head out to those Rocky Mountains. And that work-life balance comes in part to our pro number 1, as you're spending less of your income on housing, so you have more time and more of your income to spend on fun. And pro number 4 also plays a part in this as well, but we'll get to that one in a few minutes. So depending on where you are in the province, but for example in Calgary, it can take as little as 40 minutes to find yourself immersed in the great outdoors and have tons of opportunity for recreation, no matter what season it is. You can go camping for the weekend, spend the day fishing at a lake or a creek or a river in those mountains, or enjoy a scenic hike and a picnic. But until you've seen it in person, there's just no way I can explain it or show it on a video how incredible the Rocky Mountains are, and even thinking about it now is pretty mind-blowing how close we get to be to them living here in the province. Now, your tourist hotspots like Banff and Canmore are also just a short distance away, so there's no shortage of things to do or places to check out in the area. And I find it really always shocks people the fact that many of the cities and towns here in Alberta, specifically southern Alberta, you'll be able to catch views of those mountains and have them just outside of your windows, and that view just becomes the cherry on top of your home that you're able to buy here in Alberta. And that brings us to our pro number 3, which is the amount of sunshine we get here. So in addition to all the beautiful nature and mountains, Calgary is the sunniest place in all of Canada and experiences 333 days a year of bright sunshine, with Edmonton not far behind. You'll receive a ton of sunlight anywhere you are here in the province. And it really does make a difference, as winters aren't as dark and dreary and the snow doesn't stick around for too long at a time, especially when you factor in the Chinooks we get in the southern part of the province that melts away the snow periodically throughout the winter as well. And the summers are also fantastic with long days and lovely weather. The amount of light also gives you access to lots of activities throughout the entire year, and it makes winter sports that much more enjoyable. You'll understand this if you ski or snowboard, how nice it is to have a nice sunny day with shadows compared to a cloudy day when you're up on the hills. I've often been told from my out-of-town buyers that they should have brought their sunglasses because our sun just hits different here, and that's a direct quote that I've got from at least a couple of my clients. Which brings us now to our pro number 4, and another reason people are able to breathe a little bit easier here in Alberta, and that's our lower taxes. Now, as for our personal income taxes here in Alberta, at an income of $50,000 or less, you'll be paying a little bit more here than you would in some other provinces, but if your income is over that $50,000 mark, then you'll be paying less taxes here in Alberta. And our provincial tax brackets are going to be, as you see up on your screen here, 10% up to $142,000, 12% from $142,000 to $170,000, 13% from $170,000 to $227,000, 14% from $227,000 to $341,000, and 15% for anything above $341,000. Now, as for our sales tax, Alberta only has the 5% goods and services tax on purchases in comparison to other provinces with their HST or PST. And the savings will add up in the long run on every purchase you're making here in Alberta compared to the other provinces. And if you're buying a home here in Alberta, then you'll be very happy to know that we don't have a land transfer tax here. And this can be a substantial expense when you're buying a property in other provinces, but here in Alberta, you don't have to worry about that at all. And on that note, if you are planning to buy a home here, I am a local realtor in the Airdrie, Calgary area. So if you're looking to buy in that area, myself or one of my team members would love to help. So be sure to reach out anytime so we can start the conversation on working towards finding you the right home here. But if you're planning to buy in another area of the province, I have agents that I work with throughout the entire province and every market here in Alberta. So if you're planning to move to, say, the Edmonton area or anywhere else in Alberta, reach out to me so that I can connect you to an agent that I know is going to work hard to find you the perfect home. Well, that does it for our top 4 pros to living here in Alberta. So now we're going to move on to the top 4 cons about living here in Alberta. And up first, and this will likely come as no surprise to many, but con number 1 is going to be our long, cold winters. Now here in Alberta, our winter season is pretty cold and long, and this can definitely be a drawback for people considering a move depending on where you're moving from. Now the plows do a good job, but you'll need to be prepared to drive in icy conditions and on snowy roads many times from November to April. So winter tires are definitely a must here, and it also gets to the -20, -30 degrees Celsius range and beyond here, so bundling up is definitely going to become a standard. That is a different kind of snow though compared to, say, BC's wet winters. Alberta's can definitely be an improvement as it's more of a dry snow, and in the southern part of the province it doesn't typically stick around for too long because of all the Chinooks and sunshine we experience here as well. It'll dump and then melt away and be almost completely gone every couple or few weeks or so throughout the winter, which does add a nice break during the season. I have spoken to multiple clients of mine that have moved out of province in regards to the winter, and the response that I've gotten is that it's not actually as bad as they had heard or that they thought it was going to be. Now moving on to con number 2 for Alberta, which is our lack of open water. Now this one's going to be more for people who are specifically moving from BC or Ontario. Many of the people who make the move here wish there was more lakes and open water close to the cities. Compared to British Columbia or Ontario, you're not going to come across as many lakes to go swimming or boating at. We do have rivers running through the cities and towns, which are good for a tube float or playing in the summer, but you have to go a little bit further out to get to those ski lakes or bigger bodies of water. And most of those are going to be at least a couple hours away from the cities. So if you're used to being able to head over to the lake for swimming after work or want to be closer to water, then this may be something to consider, although we do have man-made lakes and communities that residents inside the bigger cities can definitely enjoy. And you do also have to consider that our water does run from those Rocky Mountains, so our water definitely can be quite cold for swimming, definitely colder than you might be used to. And now moving on to con number 3, and that is our nightlife here in Alberta. Now this one could be a deal breaker for some, and for others it might not even be on their radar as a factor when moving, but one thing that's mentioned often by out-of-province buyers is that the nightlife here in Alberta cities is nowhere near the level of other major cities in Canada. Now there are areas in Calgary and Edmonton that you can go out, and there are events that go on throughout the year downtown in both cities, but there aren't a ton of club options and things like that in either big city. And from what I've heard, the variety you'll get in places like Vancouver or Toronto provides some of the best nightlife, and more people get involved in it as well. Now here we do have a ton of amazing restaurants and bars, but as far as being more of a party scene, I'd agree that you're definitely not going to find much of that here. And moving on to our fourth and final con, and we touched briefly on this earlier, is that for those whose income is under $50,000, your provincial personal income taxes will be slightly higher here. For income taxes in Alberta, residents who make under $50,000 a year are actually going to pay a little bit more in taxes than other provinces in Canada. Now this is something to think about, because if you are in that category, then you will be paying slightly more taxes. Though if you factor in housing cost, lower sales tax, and lower cost of living in other aspects here in the province, I would expect that after you do the calculations, even if you're taxed a couple extra % on your income, your overall cost of living is probably going to be significantly less. Well, that does it for our pros and cons of living in Alberta. Please comment below any additional pros and cons you have if you currently live here, especially if you moved from somewhere else, or please comment any questions that you might have if you're considering a move here. And again, my name is Brad Walker, your favorite Alberta realtor, and don't hesitate to reach out anytime if you're planning a move to our beautiful province. I hope you learned something today about Alberta in the video, and we'll see you in our next one.